Hey guys, Jake from 80/20 Media here. Today we're going to be talking about common problems and reliability issues with GM's 6.2 liter EcoTec3 engine. The EcoTec3 engine was introduced in 2014 as the next generation of the previous Vortec engine family, and it is still being produced today, although there are a few different variants of the 6.2 liter engine, with the predominant differences being the older ones had active fuel management and the newer ones have dynamic fuel management. And of course, we're going to go ahead and talk about problems with the AFM and DFM systems. Before we jump into that, let's go ahead and talk about some of the other common problems that the 6.2 liter EcoTec3 has been experiencing. First off, some of the newer 2022 and 2023 models have experienced some catastrophic engine failures due to spun main bearings. This is somewhat more of an isolated incident. There is a theory going around that it is vehicles with the VIN that start with 3. That would insinuate that there was some type of manufacturing defect that led for a number of these engines produced at the same time period to have failed prematurely and catastrophically. I would say that the 5.3 liter has seen some premature catastrophic failures as well. There's probably a little bit more going on with the 6.2 liters. Ultimately, it's not something that is extremely worrisome just because they tend to fail within the 30,000 mile mark. So at that point you still have vehicle warranty and GM to bear the costs of it, but just something to say that I think these engines are probably experiencing a slightly higher rate of premature failure than you would expect or like to see out of newer engines. Again, that's probably more so a one-off problem with the manufacturing process. So let's go ahead now and talk about some of the other truly more common problems with these engines. The first problem that I want to point out is oil pump failure. Some of these older 6.2s are starting to experience some issues with the oil pump that ultimately leads to a spun bearing and then engine failure. However, this is typically happening on the models that are 10-ish years old and are pushing well past the 150,000 mile mark. And this is the one problem that the 6.2 is having that it doesn't seem like the 5.3 quite has problems with. Not something super concerning, it's not happening at a very high rate, but there are some of these older, higher mileage ones that are starting to run into issues with the oil pump, and so it is something to note and be cautious of. Outside of that, there really aren't very many serious problems with the 6.2, and so when it comes down to true problems that all of these 6.2 engines have, there really aren't very many things. A lot of them boil down to the 6.2 being a direct injection vehicle. They are prone to excessive oil consumption, which leads to a buildup of carbon deposits on the intake valves. Alongside other direct injected related problems, you have a fuel pump and injectors that are more prone to needing replacement at higher mileage levels. And then you'll also go through more spark plugs and ignition coils and some of your general maintenance items like that. Outside of that, the only other problem that I would really point out for the 6.2 liter is that the 8-speed transmission that it is paired with is a very bad transmission, and there are a lot of people out there that are saying it might be one of the 5 worst transmissions ever produced. Whether that's true or not, that's more so an opinion, but the 8-speed transmissions have been very problematic. However, the 10 speeds have been fantastic. Everyone loves the 10 speeds, and so I would just make sure you avoid the 8-speed transmissions. The last thing to note is that GM calls for premium fuel on the 6.2 liter. It does say that you can use 87, and a lot of people don't like that it calls for premium fuel and opt to use 87 instead. So that's not really a problem. It's just that people don't tend to love that your typical 6.2 liter gas engine in a truck is asking for premium fuel. So that wraps it up on the main smaller common problems that I wanted to talk about on this engine. Generally speaking, anything that's already hit the 30 or 40,000 mile mark is likely going to be good from running into any issues with oil pumps or spun bearings or things like that. With all that being said, that gets us down into one of the bigger topics of this video, and that is active and dynamic fuel management, which of course have been plaguing rigging GM, Vortec, and EcoTec engines for 18 to 20 years now. First of all, the 6.2 liter switched to dynamic fuel management in 2019. Let's go ahead and talk about the differences between the two. With active fuel management, you have 4 cylinders in your V8 that have AFM specific lifters on them. The AFM specific lifters are a piece of hardware, and these lifters are typically what tend to fail when you run into an AFM related issue. The AFM system can basically turn your V8 into a V4 by turning off those 4 cylinders. And so typically when you have problems with AFM lifters, it is only with those 4 cylinders that have the AFM specific lifters. Now, moving on to dynamic fuel management, GM completely revamped this technology and made it significantly more prevalent in these engines. And so now all 8 of your cylinders have the DFM specific lifters on them, which means all 8 cylinders are prone to failing rather than just 4 cylinders on the AFM vehicles. In addition to that, AFM only goes from V8 to V4 mode and back, but dynamic fuel management actually has 17 different firing combinations, and it can shut down up to 5 cylinders. So you can be running in anything from V3 to V7 mode. Also, from an AFM to DFM standpoint, I can't remember the specific number, but DFM is active somewhere around 8% more of the time than AFM is. Ultimately, these DFM systems are going to be more problematic and are going to lead to lifter failure more frequently than AFM. And it happens on the AFM vehicles frequently already. And it especially happens on older, higher mileage vehicles. The problem with these DFM engines is that we're starting to see lifters becoming a problem earlier on at lower mileages. I personally have a lot of concern for what some of these DFM engines start to look like once you start talking about 150 or 200,000 plus miles. Running into lifter problems at those levels is probably going to be even more common of a problem. So the best bet for these engines to fix a lot of the problems with the oil consumption and direct injected related things is to add a catch can. That's going to be something that's really helpful for general maintenance, prevent a lot of the carbon buildup, and prevent some of the smaller problems that are on these engines. And then for preventing the bigger, potentially more expensive and catastrophic ones, I recommend disabling or completely deleting the AFM or DFM software. Deleting it is going to be the only way to completely prevent lifter related issues. And that's because the lifter issues are a hardware issue. The software is ultimately what causes the hardware issue, but it's the hardware that fails. The only way you can really prevent the hardware from failing is by doing a full delete and pulling out all of the AFM and DFM lifters and swapping them out for normal lifters. This, of course, is a very expensive thing to do, and so the best bet to significantly reduce the likelihood of running into lifter issues is to get a disabler device. And that's what we have here with our Boost AFM and DFM disabler. This plugs directly into the OBD2 port. It does not flash your ECU or override anything on your ECU. It is completely plug and play and undetectable. You can pull it out and your car will operate as it was intended to from the factory. This will keep your car in V8 mode 100% of the time, and that will significantly reduce the likelihood that you end up running into lifter failures down the road. This is a $149 device. You can get it on our website at boostafmdisabler.com or on our Amazon page, where you get free 2-day Prime shipping. This ultimately is going to be something that's absolutely worth it to protect yourself from $3,000, $5,000, $7,000 repairs if you end up running into lifter problems down the road. Best of yet, our device is 100% manufactured in the United States, which is something that no other AFM or DFM disabler on the market can say. Anyways, guys, that covers all the problems that I wanted to talk about here. Based on what I said, it might sound like these aren't great engines. It is to some degree a little bit of the luck of the draw. These engines don't have that many problems, and they are very strong engines when they work like they should. But the problem is we've just seen too many cases of them not working like they should and them failing at higher rates than any new vehicle from the factory should. While the 6.2 is a really good engine if you get a good one, there are just some concerns that would lead me to question buying a brand new one of these at this time. As much of a GM guy as I am, I talk a lot about GM vehicles on this channel. If I were buying a brand new 2023, 2024 truck, I probably would look elsewhere other than getting a GM 5.3 or 6.2 liter. And I hate to say that, but I think there are just better options out there on the market that offer you more reliability, and even a few that are going to offer you more performance as well. I hope this video was helpful. If you appreciate it, please click the like button, subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for more videos on GM vehicles and engines.